Welcome to the video tutorial on how to manage your player information and player picks using Tourney 2005. This tutorial makes the assumption that you've already viewed the kind of basic pool configuration video that's also available in terms of setting up your pool options and downloading the pairings into your pool. So this tutorial is kind of starting at that point that you've already viewed that tutorial and understand how to set up your pool options. So under this tutorial we're going to show you how to add your players manually using the software, as well as make picks for people. This is kind of in addition to if you also collect entries on the web or via email. Quite often you'll find it necessary to manually put someone's entry in. Either they gave you a paper bracket or for whatever reason. So this tutorial will give you that information on how to do this just kind of by hand using the software. Before we start adding players, the first thing I'm going to show you is there's an option within Tourney called the autosave feature, which will automatically save your pool file after a certain number of players have been added. It's a nice option so that if something happens as you're adding players, you don't get about 200 players into this and something goes wrong and you lose all your information. So it's a good idea to turn on the autosave, and that can be found if you select the View menu and then Preferences and select the Tools option. There's an autosave feature here at the bottom. So what this will do, if we turn this on, it'll say that after every 10 players I add manually into the program, it's going to go ahead and automatically save the pool to my pool file on my computer. So again, that way, if something does go wrong and I lose my information, I'll have only lost the players that I've added since the last time it's saved. So this is just a good kind of a checkpoint to make sure we don't have any problems and lose any information. So I'd recommend turning this on. Setting it to 10 is about right, depending on how many you're adding. You could have it save after every player if you want to, but generally about 10 sounds pretty good. So we'll go ahead and select that and turn that on. Now there's a couple of different ways you can actually add a player using the software. The first one is you can select the Players menu and then New Player, or you can just select the New Player icon from the toolbar. And that brings up the New Player Information screen, which is where we're going to use to set up our players' information. And the information you see here on the left side is basically the things that we set up in the configuration that we walked through earlier through the setup wizard on the pool options. If you don't like this or want to change it, you can just select the options button here, which will take you into this screen, and you'll see here what we set up for our player information. So we'll go ahead and go back to our screen here. And so really just to add the player, you just have to fill out the information. Let's call this first person test player. And their email address is player@thesideline.com. Select OK. So now the player's been added into the pool in terms of their information, but we still haven't made any picks yet for this person. And to do that, it's just a simple matter of clicking on the teams that they had picked to win. In this case we're using the drag and drop method, so we can just click on the team and then drag the team to the box of the game that they selected them to win. The nice thing about this feature is that you can also drag the team out as far as you want to help kind of fill in the bracket a little bit faster. So if this person picked St. Joseph's to win the tournament, we can drag them all the way out to the champion and it fills in those boxes for us. So we can go through and we can fill out the bracket this way. We can also use the point and click method. If we select the View menu and Preferences, underneath the pick style there's drag and drop, which is what we have on right now. We can also use the point and click, in which case all I have to do is just point to the team, click on it, and it advances automatically for us in the bracket. Now if we make a mistake and we selected the wrong team, they really meant to pick Stanford, we can just click on Stanford and it'll overwrite that selection. That works pretty much throughout the whole grid. Now if we went too far, maybe they didn't pick Alabama, we can back that out just by clicking on Alabama again. So just pretty straightforward, just point and click on these teams to advance them throughout the bracket. And then if you're using the total points in the final game option, you can also go in here and set up how many points they predict was going to be the score of that final game. And that's where we set that option. So that's just kind of a quick overview of how we add the player picks. The other thing I wanted to show you in this tutorial is this default picks option, which is really handy if you find that the players are making kind of the same general picks throughout their brackets quite frequently. You can set up some default picks. So let's say that in my bracket almost everyone is picking the 1 and 2 seeds to win their first round game. We can go ahead and set those up as default picks, and then when I add a new player, call this player 2, that player will automatically get those default picks I just set up. So it keeps you from having to reselect those picks over and over again, which is kind of nice to help save you time on entering that information. So now that we have a couple of players, if you want to update player information, it's a pretty simple step. You can just select the player that you want to update and click on the update player icon. This brings up their player information, and if something was wrong here, we can change their name or change their email address, and that will save it. We can also just right click on the player name and select update, and that will update the player information or take us to the player information screen as well. Another nice feature of Tourney is that you can copy and paste picks between players. So if I create another player here, player 3, and I can go ahead and I can say that I want to copy the picks from player 2 into player 3 by doing copy, and now I'm going to do paste. Basically now player 3 and the test player have the exact same picks. I can also clear a player's picks just by doing the cut clear option from the menu, and that will remove their picks from the grid. Another option you have to maintain your player information is the player maintenance screen. Select the player's menu and then maintenance. This will give you a grid-like format to update player information. Instead of doing it one by one, which I just showed you before, this will let you update information kind of for all the players at one time, which is useful if you want to come in here and turn on some of these checkboxes kind of real quickly. It's a nice, easy way to be able to maintain the player information from a higher level standpoint. It lets you do it a lot faster than just one by one. Now to delete a player, you just highlight the player that you want to remove. You can right click on the player and select delete, or you can select the delete player icon from the toolbar as well. And it's prompting me if I'm sure I want to delete player 2. I can say yes. So let's remove that player now from my pool completely. If you don't want that confirmation, you can select the view menu and preferences, go to the confirmation tab, and right now I have it set up so that when players are deleted, it asks me if I'm sure I want to do that, but I can turn off that option here by removing that checkbox. So that's just a quick overview of how to manually enter player information and player picks using Tourney 2005.